just so we don't forget. Go, now we're live. So with that, we have a recommendation that comes from out of the committee of the whole.
I can do that for you if you like. That the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting held on February 14th, 2024 be accepted.
Thank you, Lisa. A second for that. Thank you, Rachel. Any objections? Hearing none, then it's carried. Policy committee met earlier today. Page froze. We went through our 5-year policy review schedule as we do every meeting, just as a reminder of what we're doing. There was some discussion on the potential of a new policy that provided provisions for staff to take leave to serve in public office, in which we'll be doing some more work on that, a little more investigation. There were 3 policies we worked on, 301 emergency preparedness, 801 planning for district facilities, and 802 disposal or acquisition of land or improvements. There'll be those motions will be coming forward later on in the agenda. And that was it for our policy meeting. I believe there is a recommendation. Now I've got that wheel. There we go. The recommendation, if anyone is prepared to make that.
That the minutes of the policy committee meeting held on February 14th, 2024 be accepted.
Thank you, Melissa. Second by April. Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, and then we can move on to finance. We did not need finance today, did we? Didn't think so. But there is a recommendation there.
That the minutes of the finance committee meeting held on February 14th, 2024 be accepted.
Thank you, Melissa. Any seconder? April. Any objections? Seeing and hearing none. There's another recommendation.
That the Board of Education appoint Grant Thornton as the SD 48 auditor for a 5-year term for fiscal years 2023 to 2024 through to 2027, 2023.
Thank you, Melissa. Second for that. Thank you, Cynthia. Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, then we can carry on. Our Indigenous Education Council, I somehow missed that. That was on Monday. I was asking Chris about it, and you missed it as well. But it sounds like Rachel was in attendance, so she's going to report out on it.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it was a good meeting. We're very fortunate to have Colleen in our district. The meeting started off with a report out on some of the meetings that are happening, alignment meetings that are ensuring that the budgets are in place with the right amount of teachers and staff, and the goal is to have that in place by the end of April. They are still having people enroll, so they will rejig if necessary. They're holding data readiness meetings, so they're going off what data the schools have right now, such as attendance, and anyone vulnerable, and they're discussing what measures are in place, both academic and social, emotional. And the youth, there's a report out on the youth leadership group, which is holding their, they call it the 24-hour drum, but it's kind of not really that. But anyway, that's taking place May 24th. Down here, I think. So it's a celebration of culture and language, and the youth have requested that there are elders there, and the theme is sort of around what culture and language mean. So there's some interesting things going on where students have been asked to design a logo with the deadline that was supposed to be this Friday, I think. They're planning to hold a fashion show, have a photo booth. Students have expressed interest in dancing with the regalia, so they're going to do that. And then they're piecing together many workshops, you know, and just celebrating and dancing. So it should be a fun event. And then items up for discussion, there's a desire to start a Prodi committee for implementation day for the Indigenous Ed Council, so they're trying to figure out how to go about it. They were hoping for next year, but it may just be the amount of work involved. It may be 2026 before that happens, and they're not sure what they want to do with the content in alignment with the Ed plan, but they want to have terms of reference in place this year in meeting structures and so on. And then the staffing update, we talked about that a bit earlier, that success advisors, there's 3 in our district that are half-time, and they're tracking the students and Indigenous students in middle and high school. So there's not one in the Whistler High School because there's only 5 Indigenous students, but they are monitored as well through the liaison in the school and so on. So every student is tracked academically and emotionally, and it's a very important you know, position between and liaison between the student and school. Colleen commented that really the position could be full-time. And the students are very well connected. They go to all the youth leadership events. The impact of the role is very evident in the schools. And they have monthly meetings reviewing all the students' needs, progress, etc. And then one other person, Laura, on the council commented that this would be valuable to have an elementary as well. So although the transitions between elementary and high school are being monitored, but it's something else that we look at that. And that was our meeting.
That's great. Thank you, Rachel. So next up, we have the public relations, community engagement. Celeste and Rachel. Is there anything new there?
No, that hasn't been.
And Celeste doesn't have anything to add.
We haven't met.
Okay, thank you. DPAC Inclusion Committee, April.
Okay, so the DPAC Inclusion Committee, they've been working for the last several months, maybe more than several months, on what they're calling a parent advocacy training committee. So what happens is, and they've held their first training session and a number of parents attended. It seemed to me that there's a little bit of confusion about the intent of that, learning. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I mean, there was a feedback from a single parent that when she went to the training, she thought it was to give her training about how to be an advocate for her child. When in fact, the training is to train parent advocates to be advocates for another child, actually a child not even in their school. So to somebody who's had lived experience who can then sit in a IEP meeting or in a psych ed meeting with the other people on the team to be an advocate for that parent. So that's the purpose of the training. They'd only heard back from the one parent, and that was where I mentioned there was a bit of confusion about what that was about. But if it happens, I think that we'll, at least the idea is to have somebody in the room that's got not only experience, but training and helping being an advocate. Then there was also another committee that they talked a lot about, which is the Accessibility Committee, which is talking about like a huge array of things about accessibility from ramps in schools to, sort of accessibility for anybody who's hard of hearing. And the worry about that committee was that they were concerned that there wasn't enough representation of people with those challenges on the committee. So they were hoping to have more diversity on the people that are actually going into schools looking for these kinds of things. So that was sort of the bulk of the meeting.
May I just quickly speak to that? The one thing that's important to mention is, again, folks can see our accessibility plan on our website. And our initial stages was for a district-based committee, and then there will be opportunities, and folks, there'll be some more reaching out in community to have more community members join. But I think one point I will make, just because it was mentioned in the public meeting, that we do have members of the committee that may have hidden diverse needs and disabilities that wouldn't necessarily be visual. So for example, if someone is hearing impaired, unless you see a close up of their ears or a vision impairment, or a neurodiversity. So I would just say, I will just assure the public that we do have representation on committee, but I won't say any more because then we're sharing personal information. So I just think that was an important point. I know that I think was addressed in the meeting, but I wanted to state that for the record for the public. Yeah.
I should add that Philip did make that exact comment, right? That we shouldn't be presuming,
Just kind of the whole.
right?
whole point.
About, right.
Thank you so much.
Chris. I forgot about that.
Thank you, April. See any questions? So we can move on to general, our business arising. We don't have any information items. Enrollment update. Danielle.
Thank you. I'm just gonna go over our enrollment projections for the next school year. So before I'm gonna share my screen and go through what's in the ministry. But before I do that, so this is, it's broken down by school and each community, and it's for Pemberton was next one. So I'm just gonna share my screen. So just to explain what we're seeing here, so there's two sections. One here's the funded projections. The next one is the funded estimates. And it's broken down by areas of the district. So Pemberton, Whistler, Squamish, and then City Skyline here is down at the bottom. And so these, the column 1701, both of these columns, those are the actual current year fall 1701 numbers. That's in September 30th, 2023. That's where the from. I do want to mention that this here is their numbers. This is the demographer that we use. And so the demographer, they specialize in school enrollment projections. And they look at birth trends in each community for each school, and they try to predict the enrollment for each school. So basically what you're seeing here, so this is 1701 natural numbers. This is what there's projected. And then we had the schools give us their projections. So they may know like there's going to be extra registration. So they adjusted their projections based on their local knowledge. And so that's why they're a little bit different than Berkner. And what we do every year as a senior team is that we take a look at all of these things, the 1701, the Berger, and the schools projections. And we usually, we will adjust it to make it, I guess you could say, more conservative. And we do that, we do take into account actual registrations as well as, like, we take into account all the things, because we don't want to over project. So, these projections were submitted to the Ministry of Education on February 15th, 2024. And the ministry uses this information and they use that to give us our quarterly funding for the first quarter of the new school year. So the July, August, and September grants. And then once we actually get the actual headcount, which is the 1701, then the funding gets adjusted based on that. So I just want to show you. So we actually get funded based on this section. So what we submitted to the ministry is this 5,015 FTE. And in the fall, I just want to point out, in the fall, we had this many FTE, 5,294. Yeah. And I just want to point out to you, so we had 5,291, but last year we projected 5,089 this time last year. So we like did under project. So I just want to point out in general, we do under project. Just because we don't want to end up with extra revenue and then the province doesn't have whatever. So we always are conservative. So that just shows you that we were conservative last year and we'll be conservative again. But overall, it is an enrollment, we're projecting an enrollment decline. So the difference between this one and this one is 276 approximately. So, so if that actually, I just want.
And is that across the board or is that like one region is dropping more than community or whatever you call it?
Yeah, in fall, you've been doing the enrollment reports. Can you just, I thought we shared that last meeting.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is more in the context of the budget development, so,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say there's any one specific area.
Mhm.
I think overall, we're seeing, fewer early learning registrations, so fewer kindergartens, fewer grade ones.
Okay, just curious.
And I'll just make a quick note that we see a drop in Sea to Sky Online. Again, Beauregard doesn't have what we're doing in terms of, again, we're moving away from the earlier grades. We did that as a courtesy for COVID, and we're not bringing more students into early learning, K to 7, K to 9. We're moving back towards grad program, and we'll be having a discussion with the teacher of the grades to be offered online at an upcoming meeting. So again, when we look at the percentage and you see 33% decline, that's by design. That's not a shock to us in terms of those numbers, because it means those students that were online go back in classrooms with their peers.
Okay.
And I think we currently have no kindergarten or grade 1 students online. We know the importance of early socialization and face-to-face, especially for our attendees in the early primary years. I just wanted to point that out, because it looks like, oh my gosh, 30%. But again, that's by design.
Okay, and I think Lisa may have a question.
Yeah, if I may, Rebecca. So, Danielle, if I can just clarify, the current 1701 on this spreadsheet for us is our current numbers for this year?
That's correct.
Okay, because my question was, when I was going through all of this, how does that impact the budget that was presented at the last meeting? Because it said our ministry operating grant funded FTEs, we budgeted 5,374,000, and on here we're 100,000 short.
Yeah, so this is for next year, Lisa. What we passed was the current year budget recently. We haven't done next year's budget. So this will have an effect on.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so, but if this is the total that we're looking at, like the real FTE for this current school year, this is the 1701 we put in for this year, right?
That's the current 1701 in the fall. The fall 17.
And then we predict $100,000 more coming in for the fall or for the spring session?
These are not dollars, these are student
These are students.
enrollment numbers.
These are the number of students, so 5,291 students. And the
Okay. Okay, sorry, I was looking at the dollar
They're
value.
very similar. I hear you, Lisa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
thinking
I
the
was
same thing
a-
First.
Yeah, I was attributing it to the valuation as well on that budget going, wait a minute, that's a different, anyway. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
I did the first thing.
So I haven't finished, so I'm just gonna say
This
that,
is a period.
so if we calculate how much that will be for next year, because we don't actually have the per student funding for next year.
Can we just hold on a second?
Yeah.
Do you guys have a question or?
I was just asking Melissa, what I couldn't see it, but for whatever reason, my screen
Her
is so
screen
blurry, I
blurry.
can't see that.
Oh,
Yeah, her screen's
Just
super
hoping you
blurry.
can help me with a little bit of.
Go into the agenda and pull it up on the PDF. I did. Put it in again.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so basically, we don't have the per student funding amount for next year yet. But if we did it based on what the per student funding amount is right now, which is $8,625 per student. That would actually equate to a reduction in funding of 2.3 million for us. It's actually quite significant, so we're
Yeah.
hoping that materialize.
Do we get funded for the international students as well?
No, but we have tuition.
Oh,
So, well, but there are a couple things that would help us out. So we do get, if we have, I think it's above a 1% decrease in enrollment, then we would get funding protection from the province. So hopefully it doesn't come to this. Like I said, these are very conservative projections and hopefully it doesn't materialize, can be as significant. So it wouldn't be the total 2.3 million. It depends on how much we get for funding protection as well. The province, but this is what our budget is going to be based. That the one that we're going to be having to approve in May and June. So you will see us projecting decrease in enrollment.
Mhm.
Thank you. And then just to clarify then, so for the budget in May and June, these are our projected numbers. And then do you do the math based on the 8,625?
We'll use the 5,015,
Uh-huh.
5,015 students. And then we'll use whatever the province would give us the grant amounts this week.
Oh, you'll have that by then. Okay.
So once I actually get how much it is, how much the
Yeah,
grant per student is this week, then we'll put these together.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Melissa?
And is this what you were telling us about last year where you want to go under? Because they'll give you funding for this, but if you go over, you have to give the money back?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. I'll just stop sharing to you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Um. Some attachments there for you. There's no correspondence. We don't have any items for discussion. So that brings us to our policy motions. Did you want to add anything, Chris? We got the first one is emergency preparedness.
No, I just, again, just thank you, to the policy committee for the contributions. Always look forward to the comments and again, just for the public, the very engaged group that always looks at policies and have some thoughtful additions to make. And even if we do a review 4 years ago, fresh eyes, see things to help things improve. And I just appreciate the opportunity to make policies clearer to the public, because after all, that's super important. That folks know why we do what we do and by what policies we are bound. So, thank you.
Thank you. We have a couple, 3 recommendations there, I guess. You wanna compare?
I can make one, but may I comment just one quick follow-up on that? For the public, these policies that are attached aren't the ones that have all the changes that were discussed today. So just make sure that you're looking for those at a future meeting date, as staffs have a tiny bit of work to do on a couple of them with some changes that we discussed in that meeting earlier. So with that, I'll move that the Board of Education approve policy 301, emergency preparedness, with changes as discussed.
Thank you, Lisa. Second for that. Thank you, Rachel. Any objections? Seeing and hearing none. Moves on to policy 801.
Do we have to in favor?
Do we have to what?
Sorry, I didn't hear a vote. Sorry, I must have missed that.
Yep, it was carried.
Okay, sorry, I missed that. I'll move the next one for you, that the Board of Education approve policy 801, planning for district facilities, with changes as discussed.
Thank you, Lisa. Any second for that? Thank you, Rachel. Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, that's carried. Policy 802.
That the Board of Education approve policy 802, disposal or acquisition of land or improvements, with changes as discussed.
Thank you, Lisa. Second for that. Thank you, Rachel. Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, and that is carried. Action items, school calendars update, BCTF day. Paul.
Okay, thanks. So the board may recall that from time to time, because we have 3 one-year calendars that have been approved, from time to time there are changes because things do change within that 3-year period. So what's happened this time is the October day, that is traditionally a provincial day where teachers engage in provincial specialist conferences and things like that. This is always coordinated province-wide. There's been a recent change in these dates for October of next year, 24-25, and the year after that, 25-26. This change just happened recently. It has nothing to do with our school district. The change was made by forces outside of our district. So I would say that most boards around the province are going to be looking at making a similar adjustment to their calendars. So the adjustment really isn't that significant. It's essentially moving the dates by 1 week, both for next year. So next year it would move from the 18th to the 25th, I believe. Oh, no. Sorry, I thought I had this all organized. Current and revised, right? So the current date is the 18th and it's moving to the 25th. Okay, that's correct. And then the year after, 25-26, we're moving from the 17th to the 24th. And that's really it. So we're asking for a motion on that change.
Forces outside of our district should choose November 1st. It should be
I
the
was
day.
just gonna say that.
Yes,
So.
I wonder if any teachers may agree with you. That could be something reps can bring back to the BCTF.
Right?
I actually had that note on here, Melissa, because a lot of people have asked me and said, could we look at moving Pro-Ds to November 1st? As that's a high absent rate for students and it could be better served for adult education learning days.
agreed.
Agreed.
A follow-up question to that, is there the opportunity for schools to choose, they may not choose this day because the provincial day is so close, but do individual schools choose a Pro-D day? I can't remember.
No, we
Okay.
when we go through our, you might recall, we did this 2 school years ago. ago, 2 years
Uh-huh.
ago. So we do our survey, and then we build a district calendar based on all of that consultation. And we place our 5, 6 non-instructional days in the calendar.
Okay, I remember doing that, but then I couldn't remember if there was any flexibility in that or not, but I did
Yeah, because
remember the
otherwise we'd
process.
have schools
Yeah,
operating on a day and other schools not operating on a day, and it would be very
Siblings could
confusing
be
and
here
difficult
and
for busing and all of that.
And then, looking at the calendars, I'm guessing it's gonna create an issue with our board meeting days again. Because on January this year, it was the third Wednesday, and April is the third Wednesday, and we have trustees who are not available. So that's gonna continue to happen this coming year by the looks of it.
The next week's calendar will have.
Yeah, well, because we've heard from a couple trustees that it created an issue for them this year.
Now, fortunately, we do have flexibility around that as a board to change dates if necessary.
Yeah, so just something to consider, because if you're coming back and you only have a few days to prep
Absolutely.
after the staff are gone. Okay, thank you. Anything else, Paul?
Nope, that's it. It's just a recommendation there.
Okay, anyone prepared to make the recommendation?
I can do that recommendation, that the Board of Education approves changes to the school calendar for the 2024-2025 and 2025-2026 school years as presented.
Thank you, Cynthia. Second for that. Thank you, Rachel. Any objections? Seeing and hearing none. Hey, you're up finally, Vicky. Thank you for coming in.
Okay, so, I'm here to request a board approval for a board authorized course, bicycle maintenance. So, we put this in at bicycle maintenance 11 at the very low level. And, essentially the goals for this is that, the outdoor recreation is huge and locally in Squamish, so we're looking for this course for Squamish right now with the inclusion of expanding the course in Canada. I want to say I think we have 17 or 18 bicycle repair shops in Squamish.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's exploded from about 10 years ago to a lot now. And I stopped in at a few of those shops and I've asked for support if they felt like this would be a great opportunity for, work experience placements and moving on into employment for kids. They were all very excited. They've offered to, like, any support we said, just let us know. If somebody, mechanics that are currently working in the shops have asked if they could be guest presenters in the classroom. And they've offered to, in terms of support, anything you need, just come to it when it's wholesale. So I think there's enough community demand for it. And we're also finding, in terms of the mechanical reasoning and manual dexterity, sometimes that first starting point is automotive love. And for a lot of kids working on a car is a very daunting task. We looked at, or we do have a class at bicycle house on secondary school, so we have bikes they can work on, they can work on their own bikes. We have a lot of the tools, we need to find some specialized tools, but we'll do that all within our school. And we just want to be able to support kids with lots of career opportunities, so. Any questions? I hope I'm not right, so I never asked for that.
Cynthia?
I have a question about, it might be around liability issues, but it might not. I guess the first question would be, are the students going to be working on other people's bicycles? Or would they only work on their own?
No, they will be working on other people's bicycles from time to time. So right now, we currently work on other people's vehicles. So that has never been an issue. We do have the instructor will be a tech ed certified teacher. So somebody who's come through with some mechanical skills and stuff too. So and just like we do in cars when we fix people's brakes, we have a teacher that verifies that that's good to go before it actually leaves the shop.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is actually for the board. Rena?
So my sons went to North Vancouver schools, and many of the projects like cars and other items were donated. So liability wise, there's never been an issue.
Mm.
Okay, it's a great idea.
Okay, thank you. Lisa, I think you have your hand up.
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Rebecca. My question kind of segues into our next action item. In the event that we do approve this amazing opportunity, will the bike course have to have fees associated with us or with it? Are we going to need to look at another amendment for our fee schedule beneath? What are we envisioning there?
I can answer that. So the department has their technology education at Housetown Secondary School. We do not charge any student fees. Unless it's something above and beyond. So if I have a student that comes in and they want to upgrade the wheels, they will have to buy their own wheels. We do not provide those materials, but when it comes to maintenance, lubrication and simple things, absolutely, we cover all those costs. If we're talking significant upgrades, we ask the students to pre-purchase those themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Celeste?
Yeah, thank you, Vicky. I had a little bit of trouble hearing the presentation, so I apologize if you've addressed this, but I can see in the linked in our agenda that the course will be for grade 11. If the first version of the course is successful, will it be offered in grade 12?
Right now, we're offering it as a grade 11 course, and it's open for all grade 10 to 12 students. We want to go from there before we offer the next level. So we have one. I have a grade 12 course ready to go. We're just gonna go from there. So if the demand is there, then we will offer a level 2, I want to say, which would be the grade 12 course, but the grade 11 course will be open for all grade 10 to 12 students.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I'm just thinking of the kids that this might be what gets them in the door. It's so interesting to do it 2 years in a row if you can, maybe with advanced techniques, and just for all the work you're doing, Vicky. I know that you're amazing, and I would love to take a course like this.
Yeah, likewise.
Yep, thank you.
Chris?
I just want to support Vicky in the work that's been done. Again, we have a new, newish format for putting forward board authority and authorized board authorizing the 30 courses. And many people around the table went through that the first time when we converted all of the existing courses to the new format. We recently approved the Ukamuch language course and Indigenous leadership as well. And I just, again, want to thank Vicky for her work on it. She did a fantastic job filling up the package. If you do determine that you'd like to approve that course, next steps, just so folks know, the board will sign, I will sign, we'll go to the ministry. Sometimes the ministry will ask, we know there's a new group of folks, not used to having lots of feedback from the ministry, but we have with the last couple board authorized courses. And I'll just assure the board that if we do have any feedback for changes, I know that Vicky and Kim and others will be working on that to make sure that it passes muster. And I think it's a fantastic, needed, hands-on, real-life learning opportunity. And to last point, I think it's a way to capture kids. So I'm really excited about putting this forward. Thank you so much for your work.
Awesome, thank you. Cynthia?
That's one more last minute question. And it might be in this document, maybe I just didn't see it, but is there an official trades certificate for a bike mechanic or a red seal certificate or something of that nature?
No, there are post-secondaries like UFV. There's post-secondary schools that do offer training, but no, there is no specific certification.
Good question though, thanks. Melissa?
If this is approved, is it only approved for Housetown Secondary, or is this something that we can implement into Whistler and Pemberton as well?
I would like to implement it in Whistler and Pemberton. When I did the application, I had to choose a school site. This is where we're going to start with it. But once it's already a board authorized course, then our other schools are welcome to offer it as well.
And there's not a lot of additional work to add the other schools?
There's no
Yeah.
work necessary. Once
Yeah.
it's approved. And what's lovely is we can determine, and I'm sure we'll be happy to, we upload our board authorized courses to a portal through Focus Ed. And so that if other schools are interested, other districts, I mean, they can actually adapt or use ours and actually encourage districts to see what are other districts offering, because why reinvent the wheel?
Mhm.
Pun intended.
Yeah.
When we have great work happening in districts, we should be able to,
And we're looking, sorry to add to that, we're looking at running it at Squamish. And if, let's say if we run it in semester 2, we're offering the tools and equipment for the other schools to offer it in semester 1 so that we can share resources. So we're working together as tech ed departments, I want to say, across the district. So
I don't see any other. I just want to say thank you very much for your patience, for starters, for coming in because of our technology issues. And first and foremost, for your amazing work with this.
thank you.
I think it's a much needed and will be a much appreciated.
Thank you.
Well, providing
Thank
the
you.
fellow trustees vote
Stay on
in.
motion, but then you're-
I will, I'm just.
Okay.
So there's a recommendation there if anyone is prepared.
That the Board of Education approves the new BA course by next weekend.
Rachel, second. Oh, it's the one to second that. Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, then approved.
Oh, well, you should bring your license to the school.
If I had one. Mine's at 1100.
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
It's so valuable for our kids to be able to fix their own bikes because it's expensive every time it goes in the shop. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I should be. We're in there all the time.
Likely be semester 2 next year. Oh, okay.
Okay, well, thanks again.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Thanks so much
We
for
have,
being so flexible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Looks like we have one more item.
And a car.
We have one more item, student fees approval. Was anybody wanting to speak to this? I don't see the
That's
name.
me. I
They
guess my name
omitted
goes
your
first.
name there.
Right. And I guess this is the last one, so no pressure to go fast or anything, right? Okay, so school fees, we do this once a year, and this is where we ask our schools to update their list of projected fees for the following year. So these are fees for next year, and for the most part, these are for supplies or services that students like school supplies at the elementary school typically or at the secondary school, that they could be programs of choice or trades programs and those sorts of things. So we'll start with elementary schools. You should have sort of a schedule of those proposed fees for next year. The instructions, well, I wouldn't say instructions, but the practice for schools is that they're not aiming to make a profit. They're aiming to just have a cost recovery when they provide materials. And for many schools, especially elementary schools, it's often school supplies just to help make it more convenient. For parents, schools can buy things in bulk at cheaper prices, and then it's a little cheaper for families to obtain their school supplies through schools, often supported by PACs. So are there any questions there for the elementary fees?
Seeing or hearing any. So
Okay.
there is a recommendation there. Complete that one first.
Sure.
That the Board of Education approves 2024-2025 district elementary school fee guidelines as presented.
Thank you, Rachel. Is there a second for that?
I'll do that.
April, how beat you to it? Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, that's carried. The secondary school.
Fabulous. So yeah, so the next schedule is the secondary school schedule. You'll see the schedule of fees, and again, any increases from this year are really due to, just like every other aspect of life, just the increasing costs of things. And so that's really what is behind any increases that you might, note.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions, comments? Okay, seeing and hearing none, then there is a recommendation.
Yep, the Board of Education approves the 2024-2025 district secondary school fee guidelines as presented.
Thank you, Lisa. There's a second for that. Thank you, April. Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, then that's carried. Thank you for your work on that, Paul. So that brings us to our items to be brought out of camera, of which we don't have any. And we don't have any bylaws. So that brings us to questions of clarification from the public.
Just a quick comment on the business project at Mr. Carter's class. My grandson was part of it, it was a great success. Doesn't want to eat his candy anymore. He wants to sell it back to us for profit.
Great. There you go. That's great. I'm so glad it covered it in my comments.
Okay, so we don't have any questions of clarification from the public. So with that, at 7:00